Hey everybody, my name is John DePietro, and it is a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to welcome you to this special edition of My Life with Kenny Rogers. Actually, the best part about it is that it's not my life with Kenny Rogers, but it's the life of our guests, our very special guests that we've been able to reach all over the country, and they're going to give you the backstory of what it was like working with the one and only Mr. Kenny Rogers. And our guest for this particular session. And by the way, we should tell you, if you like this, down in the bottom right side of your screen that you're watching this on, there's a little button that says subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, then hit the bell. And then every one of these series, every one of these sessions that we do, you'll be the first to be notified and you'll be able to see it. And I will tell you this, folks, we have some great things to talk about. And you know what? One of the things about working with Kenny Rogers is that it wasn't just Kenny that was the show. It was the whole crew, it was the whole cast. It was the band, it was Kenny, it was the opening act. And today, we're talking about the man who really made it all happen, because his name is Mike Dennie, and he was Kenny's bus driver. And Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Well, you know what? We're happy to have you here. And what we want you to do is kind of tell our audience about some of the things that went on. And I want to say bad stuff because, as we joked before, at the end, this was a mellow crowd. Everybody was in their 60s or early 70s. And you know what? They'd be asleep before 11 o'clock at night, and you drive them to the next city and they're asleep. But there was so much that took place to make a Kenny Rogers show happen. So Mike, tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you did prior to Kenny, what you did with Kenny, and how long you were with the whole organization.
Oh, wow. Well, of course, John, you know, Gene Roy, who is Kenny's tour manager for 40 years. We grew up together playing Little League Baseball.
In the tiny town of
LaGrange, Kentucky.
LaGrange, Kentucky, okay.
LaGrange, Kentucky, right outside of Louisville. But Gene continued on into the music industry, and I went into the military. I retired out of the Army after almost 22 years. But Gene always knew where I was, and every time he would get close to us, he'd call me and said, "Mike, you know, I got tickets for you, come and hang out." So it was a shock, it was an honor, and it was a privilege to drive for Kenny after everything that Gene and I have been through. But when I retired, I worked for a government contractor, and Gene found out I was losing that contract. So he called me and he said, "I need a driver." I said, "For who?" He said, "For Kenny." I said, "Gene, when and where?"
When and where? It wasn't like how much and I don't know. And it was
no,
where?
It was when and where. Just let me know and I'll be there. And an amazing story. Gene flies me into Columbus, Ohio, and we're getting ready to drive to Primm, Nevada.
Oh, halfway across the country.
Yeah. And so I flew into Columbus, Ohio, and I'm looking around, looking for a tour bus, and I don't see one. So I called Gene, and Gene, you know, is there a bus? You going to pick me up? Or he said, "Go downstairs to departures. A black Jeep will pull up and pick you up and take you to the bus."
Now, what year is this, Mike?
This was in 2015.
Okay.
And so I go down to departures. Black Jeep pulls up. Kenny jumps out of the front seat, walks over to me, shakes my hand. He says, "Mike, you're going to have a good time with these guys. They'll take care of you."
Well,
and that just blew my mind right there.
Kenny jumps out of the Jeep.
Yeah. Kenny jumped out of the Jeep, walks over to me, shakes my hand. He says, "You're going to have a good time with these guys. They're going to take care of you." And I mean, right there, and from that moment, it was family. I mean, this was a family.
So a pretty normal guy.
Oh, yeah.
Normal guy. So So you get off the plane. You haven't even gotten into the bus yet. You
No,
haven't even
no,
seen Gene yet. And
no.
here's a guy with a 60-year history of being on top of the entertainment world, gets out of his vehicle to welcome you to the family.
To the KR team, yeah, exactly.
And you're right, it
So
was a team. It was a team.
Gene and Kenny get on the plane and fly home, and Doug Simpson, which was also one of Kenny's drivers.
Yeah.
We get into and go to the bus, and we leave from there, drive to Prim, Nevada.
Okay, so you and Dougie are driving double on Kenny's bus. So what, they had a couple days off between shows, and
Exactly.
so they were going to fly home and then fly out,
Exactly.
and then you'd meet them out there.
And the thing was, I was in training with this bus. I'm on the band's bus. I was in training, and the guy that was training me had to get on Kenny's bus because it was breaking down and they had to take it to the shop. So here I jump on Kenny on the tour bus by myself and drive from Columbus, Ohio to Prim, Nevada. And that was my training.
That was it. If you got there, you know what? That's very similar to Randy and Brian had that same thing where they gave him the guitar that like above your right shoulder. That might be is it a guitar or a guitar?
It's a guitar. It don't have no strings on it.
Okay. Okay. And they said that was their what do you call it? Audition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you made it to Nevada. So the fact that you made it meant you passed the test.
And before we went out there, because I was working for the government then, and Gene asked me, he said, "Can you take 3 weeks off of work?" I said, "Absolutely." To go out on, he said, "Just come out here." And he said, "I'm not going to pay you." He said, "But I'll take care of your room. I'll take care of your food. You won't have to worry about anything out here." I said, "Well, that's fine. I'm still getting paid for my other job." But we get to Prim, Nevada, and Kenny says, "You mean that guy drove that bus from Columbus, Ohio to Prim, Nevada, and you're not going to pay him?" He said, Gene, that's not going to work." So we get to Prim, and Gene comes to me. He says, "Don't worry, I'm going to take care of you." And they did for 4 years. It was great.
Okay. So, Mike, what was on a tour date, on a day of the show, okay, give me your average day.
Oh, wow. Well, we would leave out to a venue, depending on where we would go. It would be anywhere from 200 to 500 miles to the next city. We would drive all night. The drivers drive all night long, and the people in the back are sleeping. They got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm working right now. So when we get to the venue, the drivers, we go to the hotel, we get our rest. While these guys are on stage playing, everybody says, "Oh, you're so lucky you get to go to all these shows."
Uh-huh.
Well, we don't. We don't get to go all these shows. We have a bus to take care of. We have garbage to take care of. We have these guys to shop for and take care. We're taking care of these people. So we go to the hotel, we get our rest, we come back after the show is over that night, we get in that driver's seat and hit the next city.
Mm-hmm. And that's after the multiple parties that after each show that took place, right?
Oh, no. John, with Kenny, that didn't happen. It didn't happen.
People think that there's glamour and parties and all that other stuff, but the whole thing with the Kenny crew is that it's probably the cleanest group of people anyway.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Not even alcohol abuse, let alone anything else.
No alcohol. Kenny didn't drink. None of the band members drink. Now, I'll tell you, they would relax with a glass of wine at the end of the evening, just a wine, have one glass of wine and go to bed. But every now and then Chuck would come up and ride the midnight hours with me.
Oh, Chuck would be up front in the seat?
Yeah, he'd come up. Chuck would come up and we'd laugh and tell stories. It was great. It's one of the best times of my life was driving Kenny.
So your average day, basically, if you were generally you left it on Nashville, or did you have to go to Atlanta to get Kenny?
Well,
Depending upon where you were going.
depends on what bus. I drove the truck. I drove the buses. So sometimes I drove the band's bus, but Doug would leave out of Nashville. That's where we had our bus parked, and he would drive down and pick up Kenny. And then if I was there with him, then we would both take off and go get Kenny and down to Nashville. And then from Nashville, we'd go to the venues.
Okay. So then you'd get to the city that you're in at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. The truck would go to the venue and unload, and Keith and those guys had put the show together.
Right.
You'd go back to a hotel area or park in the venue, or
we would park in the venue.
Oh, that's right. You parked the bus.
Yes.
And then
parked the bus, made sure everything was situated. You know, we could never turn our phone off because we were afraid if that bus went down, they wouldn't know what to do. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we'd park the bus. We'd go eat breakfast. You know, the venues would always have great food. So we'd eat breakfast, and then we'd go to the hotel and get our rest.
Yeah.
You know.
So as you spoke with others in the industry in the last 3 years since Kenny's been off the road, other people, because I know you've worked with Brad Paisley and Sugarland, what's her name? Jennifer
Nettles. Yeah.
When you talked with those people, were they all interested in finding out from you what it was like working with Kenny?
A lot of them were, but then a lot of them knew because they worked with Kenny. They knew how great of a man he was, and Kenny helped so many people get started in this industry, and he was loved by everyone. It doesn't matter what genre of music it was. Kenny was around for many years, and he was well loved and respected by all.
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot of the guys in the band had, 30 plus years. I think Zimmerman was the new guy. He was there for 15.
Right, exactly.
That type of thing. But as you talked with other drivers and other crew people from other acts, if you will, did they say how lucky some of y'all were to have that stability of a job in this industry? It's not stability.
Of course they did. I mean, even today, I drive for many artists, and but I'll still, like you have your shirt on right now, I still wear
squeezed into that shirt, by the way. At one time, it was an extra large when I was a medium, but now I've caught up to it.
There you go. But yeah, I still wear my my Kenny crew shirts, and they respect me for that. They asked me, "You work for Kenny?" Of course I did. I wouldn't wear the shirt if I didn't. But they respect me for that. So.
Okay. So how about the funnest time you had? The funnest time that you can remember?
Oh, wow. Probably just driving the Canadian Rocky Mountains when we were up. We did a couple-week tour up in Canada, and it was quite treacherous. And we drove 450 miles at like 335 miles an hour.
Was that part of the opening of a Christmas tour that time of year?
Yes, I believe it was.
So you started on the West Coast and worked your way across. Exactly.
But the most beautiful country I've been in, it was up across those Canadian Rocky Mountains. You would find ram would come up in the middle of the road and eat the salt off the roads and stand there, and they wouldn't move. They see this big bus and they didn't care. They just wouldn't move.
Even with the air horns?
No. So I eased the bus up just inches at a time, and I bumped one of them in the butt. And he kind of looked up at me like, okay, I got you. So he kind of wandered off, but they don't care up there. They'll just stand out there and eat the salt. But it's beautiful country. Beautiful country.
Cool. So that was it, driving across to Canada. Yeah, because they didn't need the bus drivers for the Europe stuff and the Africa stuff and the
No.
Asian stuff and Australia stuff because they used local people there. What would you say your biggest lesson learned from working with Kenny that you learned for the rest of your life, Mike?
Just to be kind to people. Kenny was a kind man. I never heard Kenny say anything bad about anyone. He would, and I just want to be a better person today than I was yesterday. And that was Kenny's philosophy too. So I kind of like that mindset, and I'll take that with me.
You know, and as we record this, we're still in the midst of the entertainment industry kind of being, ground to a halt. I think you were out, where were you, like in the Midwest with Brad when everything was canceled, and we were waiting for you to come to New England?
We were in Canada. We were on a 2-week tour in Canada, and they shut the last show down and told us to go home. So
was it already set up? The show was already set up, ready to go?
Yeah. Well, we had to drive to the next show. We were at a show that night, and we were leaving to go to the very last show of the tour, and they told us, no, it's been canceled. You all go on home. So we drove on back to Nashville. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See, a lot of people aren't aware of the fact that the numbers of people that it takes to really put on a show is so much greater than what you see on stage. And a lot of your fellow workers are, falling on hard times right now. Yeah, you get some kind of unemployment, but for that work, you all want to work. You don't want to be sitting around collecting a check. You want to be out there.
I want to be on the road, John. I love what I do for a living, and I don't want to sit at home. And these artists, musicians, they want to play just as bad as everybody wants to hear them. But it was so much fun. We did a little drive-in thing with Brad a couple weeks ago with the drive-in theaters.
Yeah.
And it was great. And Brad said, oh, it was great just looking out. All you saw was a quarter mile of cars and everybody out, having a good time. And we enjoyed playing. And everybody wants to get back to some kind of normalcy.
Yep. Yeah.
We don't know when it's going to happen, but we're all welcoming it when it does happen.
So it was no secret that Kenny's health was declining in the last few months, but do you remember where you were when you got the word that, back in March that Kenny had passed?
Yeah, I was sitting right here. I got up in the morning, and I had 5-6 messages on my phone, everybody telling me how sorry they were. And I'm thinking, sorry for what?
Yep.
And then I went online and found out, and I said, oh my gosh. And yeah, it hit me pretty hard.
Yep.
And, but.
Yeah. The sad thing of the whole thing is there's never been any, because of the COVID stuff, there was no wake, no funeral, no ceremonies or anything like that. And I know that there was talk of getting together around this birthday time. But right now there's nothing planned yet with that, right?
No, I haven't heard anything as of yet. So, but it doesn't matter.
Unless they're having it and they ain't telling me about it.
Whenever part of the country I'm in, if they have any kind of thing like that for Kenny, I'll be there. So
great. So Mike Dennie, we want to thank you so much for taking time from your busy day to be with us, to share with us your life with Kenny Rogers. And we want to let our viewers know that we've got several other episodes of this coming up. And again, down the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the subscribe button. And every time a new one comes up, you'll be notified. So we want to thank you so much for being with us and bid you a great day.
John,